bow out until you guys are done.
And we're live. Raj Giri didn't watch SmackDown tonight. It's all spoiled.
I don't watch empty arena wrestling unless I have to.
You're too good for it.
I can't. I don't like it.
Literally. Wrestling, professional wrestling has put a roof over your head, food on your family's table, but you say, oh no, unless I have to, I'm not watching this crap.
It's painful.
Do you have your daily check-in call with Ryback? Do you guys like watch Netflix together and talk on the phone?
We did our podcast this morning. So a week from Monday is the date. If it, I'll ask Matt Morgan, but we will see.
Does he have a special ringtone on your phone?
I forget after Feed Me More how that theme song goes, but that would be pretty sweet.
Oh yeah.
Feed me more. Then dun. I don't know.
Yeah, because it would have a beat where he could do could do the hands up and down.
How much for charity, Raj? The next time we're allowed to congregate in person, because you know where Ryback got the Feed Me More from. You know the origin of that?
No, I do not.
Little Shop of Horrors. So I want for charity, I want Ryback as Audrey 2, and you as Seymour, like just doing a scene, doing the song together from Little Shop of Horrors.
God, I don't want to start a whole thing. I've never seen Little Shop of Horrors. I don't want this to become a Goonies thing.
Little Shop of Horrors. Actually, Little Shop of Horrors. I mean, it's good. I can understand where it would have missed you growing up, but at the time, I mean, Rick Moranis, it's a big deal.
Like Ghostbusters.
He's very good at
Shrunk the Kids.
He's very, very good in that movie, and it's got a big plant that eats people. Is that the plant? Feed Me.
That's Feed Me Seymour. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Feed Me.
Okay.
That's where he got Feed Me More from. Why do I know this about Ryback? I don't know. This is the Wrestling Inc. podcast, everyone. I'm Glenn Rubenstein, joined by Justin LaBar and Raj Giri. Matt Morgan had some City of Longwood business to tend to this evening, so he's not going to be here on tonight's podcast. He sends his regards and his regrets for not being able to make it, but Justin and I watch SmackDown because we're not too good for it. We week in and week out. I was watching this while I was like wiping my grocery delivery down with bleach. So it was very exciting. The bleach fumes made me a little high. Maybe, I enjoyed SmackDown more because of that. But tonight's show was actually, I thought, pretty all right as far as wrestling without an audience.
Yeah, it probably was one of the better Performance Center shows we've had, and that's because I guess the ones that led up to Mania were very, things constantly changing, constantly being scrambled around. This, had a format that felt similar to a normal SmackDown. I mean, obviously, as Raj didn't want to experience, there was no fans, there was a different lack of energy, but there was progression. We got new feuds, and just before, I would say at about 9:45 Eastern time here, I said to myself, all right, well, if I had to be asked to sum this up, I would say there's been nothing must see. But then by the ending, by seeing what Braun Strowman's next piece of business is going to be, I was like, all right, I would have been mad if I didn't see this live.
Yeah, that was good. And we opened the show tonight with Nakamura cutting his own promo, facing off against Braun Strowman. It's been a long time since they let Nakamura do something, and this felt looser. This didn't feel as scripted. I mean, granted, okay, the knock-knock joke, whatever, but I thought, maybe it's because they didn't want Sammy on, or Sammy couldn't be there tonight for whatever reason, but I thought Nakamura looked pretty good in this promo against Braun.
Yeah, this was one of the better ones, and I don't know if it was if there was just a go out there and just do something, and he just kind of could put in his own words. I don't know if it's me being as bad of a listener. I was understanding him easier because it is an empty arena. I'm not sure what it was, but yeah, this was a pretty good interaction and showing for Shinsuke. And I didn't expect Shinsuke to be beating Braun Strowman later in the night, but I thought, this is. Sure, why not? Shinsuke Nakamura getting a match against the newly crowned champion, non-title, granted, but I'm okay with it. It's something different. It's not a push the repeat button. So I'll deal with this.
Ooh, Joshua Sewell pointing out, knock, 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 knock. When's that T-shirt going to come out? That should be his new gimmick.
Hold on a second. Nakamura beat Strowman tonight?
No, he came out and cut a promo that set up the main event. But Raj, think about the years on this podcast. We've talked about them giving Shinsuke terrible gimmicks, the I don't speak English thing, having Sami Zayn talk for him, giving him scripted promos that were very awkward. Tonight, he went out there And I'm trying to think of a time when he's done this much talking face to face with someone. It felt more natural. I think it was a step in the right direction that they're not micromanaging him as much anymore.
I have not watched tonight's show, but that's great. I just had to chime in if they beat Strowman his first night. So
that would be,
thank God that they didn't do that. But
ridiculous.
Nakamura, he's had all that potential all this time. So yeah, if they're moving that direction, the only problem is they made Nakamura look so bad over the last couple of years. They have delegated him to mid-card status. So to automatically throw him in the world title feud, it reminds me of after Ultimate Warrior won the world title and they put Rick Rude in there. And Rick Rude is a badass. But the fact that he had been in that mid-card feud, no one took that seriously. No one thought that Rick Rude was a threat to Ultimate Warrior in the world title feud. And
it wasn't that they tossed. I mean, Nakamura's not the number one contender. I mean, they said going into the match, Corey Graves says, "Wow, if Nakamura could beat Strowman, that certainly puts him in the running." I think the excuse here was, it was Braun who had to beat Nakamura back in the IC title picture some months ago. So, Nakamura feeling like he has some claim to be the first one to come and knock at Braun's door. But yeah, I mean, Braun ended up beating him. So that was obviously the right decision.
That was the main event.
Jeez.
Right. It was just something.
Get out of this.
something to spice the night up. Change it up. Are you coming back?
I'll come back when the news starts.
Yeah, he's going to go. He's got texting Ryback. Alonzo Smith pointing out Shinsuke's English has really improved. Heard every word he said. He should get to speak more. Tammy saying you don't have an arena full of idiots chanting what? It makes anything better. I do have to say, we're getting...
Cheers to that.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting to see performers perform more and not have to play defense against these sometimes hostile crowds. So in a way, this is, I think, a more difficult yet in some ways better environment for the performers to cut promos.
From a promo standpoint, I really can't think of one that's happened in these Performance Center shows that have been now, we're coming up on a month soon. I can't think of one that I was like, that promo needed to be in front of a crowd. There's been plenty of times where there's been matches where you're like, God, I wish there's a pop here. But I know there's been so many promos going back to, several with Cena and Bray on their build, Edge and in the build to Orton. There's been a lot of promos that the intensity comes out because it's them looking into the camera. They're not worried about looking out and addressing the crowd. You don't have distractions from the crowd or interruptions that can mess with the timing. No what chance, no CM Punk chance. So from a promo standpoint, it kind of lends itself to the empty arena. Kind of lends itself to the benefit. It's the bell to bell matches that it becomes tough at times. You almost have to put the TV on mute.
It's amazing how they've essentially gone from being a theater company now to, well, as Vince would say, being in the business of making movies and making TV. But I think that's good. I think WWE is rediscovering that they can do more without being constrained by the live audience. And I think that's the most positive thing to come out of these productions. So with this, yeah, I mean, they set up the main event for later in the night. Cesaro tried to sneak attack while Nakamura was facing off with Braun, but Strowman knocked him out of the ring. And we had the women's tag team title match tonight, Asuka and Kairi Sane versus Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross, with Nikki and Alexa retaining. Now, this was a great example of how they're not letting there be any dead space. It's like somebody realized and said silence is what makes this feel awkward. So you need to trash talk your opponent. And when all else fails, just freaking yell. Just scream.
Yeah. Alexa Bliss has not had a bad showing in these empty arenas. She's, we've heard a little bit more of her sassiness and her trash talk, to the Kabuki Warriors that she's been in the ring with the last few weeks. So yeah, I mean, I know you're right. It's kind of like, and that's kind of, I mean, it's a basic principle of what AEW is trying to pull off, or what they are pulling off just by putting a dozen or so talents ringside, is just by those talents just hooting and hollering and what have you. It just it fills a void. So there's just not an echo of silence. So yeah, it's not a complicated thing here. And
good use calling out sass. I think sass is the most underrated character trait in a performer, male or female. I love me some sass, and I think it works well with Alexa. I liked even what Nikki was doing tonight. I thought this was really good. Asuka, talk about bringing the energy. She, I think, was the prototype for a lot of this, and realizing that it's like, okay, Asuka will just go out there and talk and yell a blue streak, as if it's a packed crowd, and others are following suit. So this, what'd you think of the match itself with Cross covering Sane for the pin to retain here tonight?
I didn't have a problem with that. It was an entertaining match. This was one of the better matches I think that I saw of the night. So, yeah, good stuff. I think arguably better than what we saw at Mania.
Jwalit Barwani, Canadian, $6.99. That's like $5 American. Is saying,
You're welcome, Raj.
Saying, I fully agree with the absence. The crowd has made the promos amazing today. Miz and Morrison said, finally, the "you can't see me" gimmick came true. We'll talk about Miz and Morrison. That was fantastic tonight as well. Chris Jones saying males don't have sass. Let's not gender. Let's not stereotype. A man can have sass if he wants to have sass. I think I have sass.
Velveteen Dream has sass.
Velveteen Dream has sass in spades. People need to bring that saying back.
In spades?
In spades. I don't even know what that means. Like, you've got a lot of it. You've got it in spades. But yes, men can have sass. So after this match, we had Elias. Elias got to do an entire song tonight.
Yes, he did.
Oh, that clapping sound effect. I was just like, couldn't they have picked a better sample for that clap? But Elias got to finish the song tonight, doing the recap of him and Baron Corbin in song.
He did. He made some Lion King references. He this is good. Elias, small bit of momentum. Gets a victory at WrestleMania. He gets to complete a song. We're heading in the right direction.
Yes. Okay. Chris Jones at least says the Velveteen Dream and Prince are men who have sass. Men can have sass. It's the year 2020.
They're not men. They're androgynous.
Sounds like something Vince would say. And Elias cut a promo tonight about wanting to win the Money in the Bank briefcase. We're going to talk about what is up with Money in the Bank. We're going to talk about it after this. There's some news. There's some speculation. But then we saw a video package on Mandy Rose and Otis, how they're living it up post-WrestleMania. Dolph Ziggler came out with Sonya Deville. They are not happy. They yelled about the video package. But Tucker took the mic and interrupted. And what did you think of all these photos of Otis and Mandy Rose clearly taken in the same parking lot? But I love that Otis was just holding a bunch of bananas throughout them.
I mean, come on. How could you not smile and laugh at this? This is, it's fun. It's fun. It's a good feel-good. Otis is a fun character. It's a feel-good story. The guy, the good guy gets the girl. His buddy, his alpha male buddy sticking up for him. Tucker, pretty good showing in the ring. Tucker's, getting to show a rare singles, having a singles match for him. I'm cool with this. The only thing I like Dolph Ziggler. I like Sonya Deville. I'm not yet sure if I can. If I buy them together, and I hate to be this whatever, but it just comes down to Dolph Ziggler's gimmick has always been, I'm going to steal your girlfriend. He can't steal Sonya Deville, so I don't know. I'm just a little bit off on that one.
Well, didn't Rick Rude fail? And didn't we determine Rick Rude was the sexiest man of the 1980s into the 90s? Didn't he fail even once in stealing someone's girl?
Well, he didn't get Jake Roberts' wife.
Well, there you go.
Except in real life, he did.
And Raj pops back in for the zinger on Jake Roberts.
I do got to say, before I head back out, good for the Forgotten Sons to get on the main roster.
Is it, though? I mean...
It's an inside joke with me and Justin, but all right.
Oh, well, yeah, about how there's no main roster.
Yeah, him in the main roster.
Raj just going to pop in.
Raj's like Kramer. He just pops the door open. They've been on the main roster, Raj.
Savan Vivar saying spades is because of the card game Spades played mostly in prison. LOL. The object is collect the most spades possible. Interesting. The card game Spades. Now that I've got this downtime, I'm going to learn how to play spades. I'm going to learn how to play dominoes finally. That's been like a lifelong curiosity. I have no clue how dominoes is played. I did buy a lockpick set. I'm going to also try and master picking locks. It's one of my quarantine hobbies.
Learn dominoes and you can join the BSK.
Oh, yes. Yes, indeed. So I love the photos with Otis and Mandy. It was better that it was all taken, clearly in the same 5 minutes. But yeah, I don't know about Dolph and Sonya. And, next week, Sonya's going to clear the air with Mandy. Tucker won this match against Dolph Ziggler. It was pretty easy. Where do you think this is going? And we did not get an appearance of the Hacker tonight.
That is correct. We did not. Well, I don't even know though that I think that hacker deal. I don't think the hacker gimmick is synonymous. I mean, I think its first hack job was to reveal the truth going on with Otis and Mandy and Ziggler and all that. But I think it could pop up and it's going to maybe reveal more truths for a while until it becomes time to reveal the hacker himself. So, yeah, I don't know where it's going though. This is a good question. I mean, I guess logically it would be some kind of a mixed tag, right? Maybe.
Yes. The chat room is blowing up right now. People saying you do not play the hard game spades to collect spades. So if someone can clarify that, I will correct the record here. But
you do collect spades. It's either you can go null or you were collecting spades, and that's how you win books. But
if you're listening to the audio only of this podcast, it sounds completely normal because you just think that there's this one person on the panel who's just not talking as much. If you're watching the video, this looks effing hilarious. That we just the middle Hollywood square, the Whoopi Goldberg square, just keeps popping in, a la Raj with these like. Remember VH1 used to have the pop-up video, and they used to like that little bubble pop-up facts. Raj just pop-up video with facts.
All right. But spades, you do collect books. Spades are Trump. So anyway.
Do you know how to play dominoes?
Carry on.
Raj, do you know how to play dominoes?
I do not. But, Nick, he did a Survivor Series thing with The Godfather. And The Godfather was teaching him how to do it. And
oh, yeah. Nick will tell you he's 1 degree removed now from being the BSK with The Undertaker.
He thinks he got a BSK tattoo on his stomach. This is very disturbing.
So after Dolph Ziggler won that match against Tucker and got the pin and the win, Ziggler stood tall. They're going to clear the air next week. So yeah, Ziggler won that. Wait, why didn't Tucker win that match?
I guess Dolph and Otis is the feud, right?
Yeah, I guess.
And Tucker is a talented guy. I don't see things going well for him, though. I mean, Otis was clearly the star of that tag team, and I think it's going to be rough seas ahead. I think Otis is, if this was the old days, this is where you book Otis into a Intercontinental title feud and have him win a belt, after he's done with Ziggler.
Maybe the next hacker reveal is that as Tucker starts to get a little jealous that he stood up for his buddy Otis. Otis is getting title shots. Otis is getting the girls, and Tucker starts to sabotage him.
Maybe. But the hacker, that always seemed like it was Ali, right? With the symbol and everything. Yeah. But there was no hint of that, apparently, this week.
Charlie Barwani, 279. Raj is really the Vince of podcast chiming in.
It'd be great if Raj was hollering into one of our ears and only we could hear.
Justin, damn it.
That's what it's like when you give text during the podcast. We're just like, that's how Graves must feel when
It's been done.
Yes. I was never given a name saying Raj is better than Clippy. You are like the Clippy of this podcast. Okay, so after that, let's talk about this. The Miz and Morrison, the dirt sheet. Morrison saying first person to successfully defend the titles alone at WrestleMania. The Miz is the first person to successfully defend the titles from his couch. I don't know why they thought doing this rap song live was a good idea, but the rest of this promo was fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, these two guys are just they're just so great at being. They both think they're A-listers, red carpet, and they're just so dorky. I mean, I don't know. It's just a great. I'd watch these guys both Raw, SmackDown, NXT. I'd watch these guys on every show. They're naturally entertaining. They don't need much of a script. They're friends in real life, so there's like a natural chemistry. A lot of fun.
I do gotta say, I didn't see the segment, but the Miz as a babyface is time lost. Like nothing happens during that time. Like him as a heel and with Morrison, they've been doing a great job. I didn't see it tonight, but in general, they've been killing it. His whole thing with Shane McMahon, how forgotten is that? So I just feel like anytime he's a babyface, it's time forgotten. So
and how crazy they did a Miz versus Daniel Bryan match, and Miz was the babyface. That's crazy.
And going from that talking smack to that match, And to think that how forgotten that is, normally you would think like that would have led to a WrestleMania match, like something epic. And it was just kind of a forgotten thing.
Wait a second. That wasn't really Raj in the chat a few weeks back. That was you in the chat, right? With the photo that we were all like Matt was making fun of.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good. Good.
I didn't chime in on the video because I don't want to add more than 3 people in the video.
I don't know. I think okay. So when Matt's not here tonight, because what's good for the goose. Raj, you should, especially when Matt goes on a little tear, like ribbing you sometime. You should absolutely pop into a run, and that'd be hilarious.
I should. I will next time.
Yeah.
Done taking it.
Enough is enough. It's time for a change.
Enough, it's time for a change.
I think getting Ryback on this podcast is going to be
So that is crazy that you just said that, because earlier tonight I was doing a Zoom chat with a bunch of guys, and this guy popped up a picture of Owen Hart, Jeff Jarrett, and Deborah. And my wife came in. She's like, "Oh, that's Jeff Jarrett and Deborah. Who's the guy with them?" And I was like, "What? You don't know? Like you didn't recognize Owen Hart? That wasn't the first one." But anyway, that happened tonight.
Was she with you when Owen was still alive?
Oh, she knows Owen.
Okay.
He just looked different in the picture. He had like the scruff she knows Owen.
Looking forward to the finale, the series finale this season of Dark Side of the Ring on the Owen Hart story.
That was we watched that pay-per-view live. It was
I
don't mean to change the dynamic, but all right, let's go on.
Okay. So next week we're gonna have the other 3 guys who weren't in the WrestleMania tag match are gonna face each other next week on SmackDown. But the Usos came out, Big E and Kofi came out tonight. This promo was okay, but I mean Miz and Morrison were just the high point of this.
Agree.
And then promo for the Forgotten Sons, who are now on SmackDown, not the main roster. It's weird they're doing the call-ups this year or the shifts post-main. I don't know. It's just, especially given everything that's going on, like how defiantly insistent was Vince that we're bringing some NXT talent, and why these guys? I mean, no offense to them. I mean, Wesley Blake has been there forever, but
let's not forget. This might have been a situation where 5 weeks ago they weren't going to be on the SmackDown after Mania, but if all 3 of those guys live within an hour in Florida, then it might just be like, hey, let's just do that now because it's easier than bringing somebody. I mean, they have certain talent right now that are. I mean, we talked about this on Wednesday. I think granted this is NXT, but just like Finn, Walter. I mean, there's some talents that can't travel because of where they are. I mean, so maybe there's just kind of an opening opportunity to bring these guys in now. And I mean, certainly not a fair shake for them to have to come in and make their mark in an empty arena, but I guess.
Well, speaking of which, I want to get back to the Forgotten Sons in a minute, but speaking of being able and being available, Raj, what was the deal with The Miz? Because he was out of the WrestleMania match. There were rumors that he was showing symptoms, but here he is back tonight and everything's fine.
He was just sick. It wasn't coronavirus symptoms. He was just sick. I do have some. So I got some news that stay tuned to Wrestling Inc. I got to get it verified. I got to get a second source on it, but hopefully tomorrow or the next day I'll get something. But so apparently tonight's tapings, so SmackDown, and then it's going to be Raw the next 2 days, and it looks like they might be adding. And this isn't what I'm talking about, but Money in the Bank is probably going to be afterwards because the arena canceled it. So yeah, I'm sorry. What were you saying?
Oh, about The Miz. I think. It was just an illness.
Yeah. So he was just sick, but that did trigger a whole chain of events because the Usos were, they didn't know what was going on. Obviously, with everything that's going on right now, and then Roman Reigns. Well, first, the fact that these guys have to be put in this situation to have to decide, and it's not, the decision isn't made for them to go forward with the show or not, is fucked up. Roman Reigns should have never been put in that position with his immune system where it is to have to be the one to pull out of this match. So this thing with The Miz, the fact that he was sick and, Dana Brooke is having to go into quarantine and Rey Mysterio, and then WWE doesn't pull Roman Reigns out and he has to do it himself. I don't know. It's just a bad look, and I just think it's just with AEW going forward with tapings when they did it last week. Granted, they're taped through mid-May. If they're going to continue, you're putting your performers' safety at risk. WWE is doing that right now. One guy gets it, you see how quickly it spreads. These guys are sweating all over each other. It's
they should have done this a month
slimy.
ago. Yeah, they should have done this a month ago and just made the decision. I don't know why now. And we're seeing these stories about Vince, supposedly telling people, we'll give you a letter saying you're essential. They want you to travel. They want you to do these things. I don't understand why when they had everyone a month ago, they didn't take advantage of the situation then when it was not completely safe, but safer and less risk than there is now. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, let me ask you guys this. As a fan watching this show, would you be able to watch this for 3 months, the next 3 months, these empty arena shows, just as a fan? And if you do, that's cool. But
I mean, if there's,
I don't know,
Justin.
I mean, as a fan, like I'm getting more and more used to it, which is sad. So maybe I would. I mean, I'll be honest. They're like, I probably would not have watched tonight if I was not coming on this podcast. I would have probably waited maybe tomorrow morning, sipping some coffee, would have fast forwarded the DVR, would have caught YouTube clips. I don't feel as compelled right now to like tune in. It has nothing to do with any like political aspect of it at all. Vince is being slimy. They should have. That really doesn't come into play for me. I just don't. I don't feel a lot of energy because I kind of feel like they don't even know what they're going to do. They're kind of, calling it week to week, so to speak. I mean, the fact that Money in the Bank, which I've been saying for years, I think is the fourth biggest show. I think it supersedes. I think it outranks Survivor Series now. The fact that Money in the Bank is going to be also in this Performance Center, likely, and then if Nick and I got into it on the Rest of Nick Daily the other day. Nick feels like we're going to be doing this for the remainder of 2021. He doesn't feel like until there's a vaccine, you're going to get a crowd of people together. I just as a fan, I'm getting more and more used to it, which scares me. But if I was not doing this podcast, I probably would not waste the live hours. I'd probably go do something else with friends or well, not friends, but at least with family here at the house.
Part of wrestling for me is the excitement and the crowd and the wrestlers feeding off the crowd. And when they're doing this in an empty arena by themselves, it comes across as, and I hate saying the word fake because I feel like that's a disrespectful word that people use that they don't use for other forms of entertainment. They don't say, oh, Iron Man, that shit's so fake. But wrestling, they say, oh, how do you watch that? That's fake. But wrestling looks so fake, in this empty arena environment.
Raj, you know what it feels like? 'Cause I know what you mean, and I don't ever use the F word, fake. But what it feels like is like when you get to watch this behind the scenes of like a movie, and you see an action movie be done, but it doesn't have the sound effects or the score or anything. When you just see just the two, that's what it kind of feels like. It feels like we're seeing that the performers go through the motions, but we don't have that natural soundtrack of the crowd. That's just what it feels like. It's like until you get all those effects put in there for the final product of the movie, that's what it kind of feels like in a lot of ways. For the bell to bell action, promos are actually, I think, enhanced even better now that we have silence and they can focus on the camera. But bell to bell, yeah, I feel that it's like watching the behind the scenes of an action movie.
Yeah.
I think as long as their creativity, I think the more they push the envelope creatively, the better it becomes, the more it becomes like TV. But I'm telling you now, though, man, as soon as one person on the roster is confirmed to have come down with this and it spreads, or even that they were out of taping, I think the WWE is going to shut this down quick. It was funny. I was watching an old news clip last night, or we were watching something, old episodes of the Week in Rock and MTV, and I remember they were talking about when John Holmes died of AIDS and the porn industry shut down everything immediately. Everyone got tested. Everyone freaked out. I have a feeling if one person on the WWE roster gets this, you're going to see a similar freak out, and WWE is going to be shamed just like UFC was.
Well, now we're at every sport. So UFC hasn't had a member of their roster yet, but Eric Silva, who was a former UFC fighter in Bellator, now his whole family has had it. Rosa Namajunas. Justin, help me out here. Rosa Namajunas. Namajunas?
Not going to get it from me.
So she was in the co-main event of UFC 249 before they canceled UFC 249 yesterday. She withdrawed, and that was because two of her family members died. And and not only did they die, but fans were getting on her for bowing out. And so she felt like she had to come out and say why she had to withdraw. This is not a normal time, and this is not like, oh well, let's try to toe the line as much as we can and skate by the rules to get by, because this doesn't affect us. This is affecting everyone, and it's getting there, and it's going to get to wrestling if you keep this up, and you're going to look like shit if someone dies.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a game changer. Be ahead of the curve.
What's the, like I kept saying prior to Mania, like, okay, do Mania and take a break. I've abdicated. I won't go over. I've advocated for years to have an off season anyways after Mania. But the response from all those who want to play devil's advocate is like, Vince and the TV deals. He's got to have weekly programming. Like, even if he did a weekly programming that was just, again, basically recap shows out of Stanford or showing old archive stuff, whether it's WWE Network stuff or old Raw episodes, like everything else, as we're talking about, shut down. Would Fox and USA really come after him and say, "Hey, breach of contract here"? Like, you're not going to get your what is it this year? 2.5 or 250,000 or 250 million from Fox?
Hell no. I mean, they would probably renegotiate that period. They'd be like, if WWE had to cancel completely, obviously they would have to be like, well, we're not going to pay for all these weeks where you're not airing. But if WWE keeps airing new content by their contract, that's new programming, and they're good. And no way are any of these networks gonna. I mean, DAZN actually recently did say that they're gonna not pay the sports right fees until everything's back to normal.
Yeah, advertising though, I have a feeling that some of their advertisers actually would probably love it if WWE went to reruns, because that would give them some make goods or a pause on their contracts. And I could see Vince being defiant and be like, "No, you're locked into this. We're still doing programming. We're not going to pull your spots."
If Vince would have pulled Mania, then that would have been money maybe from Snickers. He doesn't get to cash in on.
Snickers money isn't that much. He probably lost $20 million that weekend. Snickers wasn't paying $20 million.
I don't know what the going rate is for naming rights of WrestleMania.
I was talking to Brandon Thurston from WrestleNomics on Wrestling Inc. And there's the amount of money they lost by not postponing WrestleMania is enormous. I mean, we're talking $20 to $30 million between pay-per-view, network subscriptions, everything. And I don't know. I think they're just setting their ways. They're setting their way. I honestly think, and you guys are going to give me shit, but me and Ryback, we're talking. But Ryback actually brought up a good point where he does not want Vince having wrestlers having this off season and seeing how beneficial it is to the talent. Like, he likes that year-round schedule, and he does not want this period where people have time off, because it hurts his business the way he knows it.
Yeah.
And you could cycle off talent. You could do, the New Day are here from June to August, and then they're off till October, and it keeps them fresh.
That becomes an imperfect science because guys have injuries and this and that changes it. But I just think if you did 6 to 8 weeks off after Mania, and you came back and you built to Money in the Bank in June, and you're not competing against the playoffs of NBA and NHL, you're not competing against Major League Baseball. You're giving the talent and crew. God, after WrestleMania week, that talent and crew was just burnt, and then 3 weeks later they're going to go to the Europe tour. I mean, like. It would just be so, I think, so much better. Absence makes the heart grow fonder.
But so Justin, you said it's an imperfect science. It's regardless. The injuries happen all the time anyway. But you can at least kind of schedule it. And if you have to shift stuff around, then you do.
So Antoine Fair, I'll do this in reverse order. He's saying they got them interested in Bray versus Braun with the first shot. But they must have a lot of episodes taped maybe through Money in the Bank. So it goes to what we're talking about. So the arena doing Money in the Bank canceled the show, refunded the tickets. But based on tonight, WWE is talking about qualifying matches. I mean, so this is likely going to be taped at the Performance Center.
So Money in the Bank is not in the plans for this set of taping. So they're taping through Money in the Bank. It seems weird to me that WWE would think that they were going to have Money in the Bank this soon, a month out, and we see where we are. It's getting worse, not better in a sense. In New York, you're seeing the number of people going to the hospitals dropping, but nationwide, the number of people dying and everything is increasing. So we're not there to where we can start doing arena events, and we're not going to be by whatever May the 10th.
Who knows? I mean, yeah,
we definitely won't be by May the 10th.
Yeah.
I mean, that's 1 month away. I can't see it.
If MGM in Vegas, the entertainment capital of the country, canceled everything through May, that gives you an indication that through May nothing's happening.
Right. So
yeah.
Either they have faith that Florida will allow them to do another set of tapings by then, or it's going to be canceled. And probably, honestly, with the way things are, Florida's going to let them do another set of tapings.
Yeah, I'm seeing stuff on Twitter, Raj. I don't know if you've had it confirmed yet, but there's speculation that they've gotten approval from Florida to keep doing it the way they're doing it. Fun times with games. Buck99 says, as a fan, it's been putting me to sleep. Jawali Parwani saying, isn't Vince himself a high risk given his age? I think Vince McMahon thinks he's invincible at this stage of his life.
The fact that we've had the PM of what is it? England? London?
England, the Prime Minister of Great Britain.
The fact that he was in bad condition, anyone can get this, and I think he's younger than Vince, right?
Boris Johnson?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Vince will be 75 this August, I think.
Boris Johnson's only 55. Wow.
Oh, geez, he looks.
I know,
he looks like Trump. So I assumed he was
Boris
like
Johnson
70.
Looks like an aged man. And my thoughts go out to him in this time. I hear he's recovering, according to the latest news stories. But yes, he does not look like a young man. Vince, 20 years advanced on that in a high-risk group. Baby Maharaja, $2 saying not an off-season, but rather WWE take a break. And I think, I'm telling you, man, all it's going to take is this getting somebody on the roster getting it. And if they find out that person was just at tapings a week ago, and I think that's how WWE works, though, right? It's like, when's the last time they proactively did something when there was an outrage or outcry? I mean, even going back to the Fabulous Moolah controversy a couple of years ago, or some of this more recent stuff, it takes enough people getting angry and then they respond.
What's worse is AEW, because they're the ones that try to be politically ahead of the curve. And they're like, oh, we have all, we are looking out for wrestler safety and we're doing this. And they're still holding tapings like last week with all these talent. WWE, this is not surprising, right?
Yeah.
This is expected. AEW is the one that's supposed to be ahead of the curve, like therefore the talent. They care about, their wrestlers and they're the ones held tapings way after this pandemic has, been,
that's true,
at a scary state.
And you saw the thing today, because Jake Roberts, who was on the WINC talking about, he was in a hotel room, self-quarantine, self-isolating. Like DDP's talking, should I let him come to the DDPY Performance Center? Should I let him in?
He should not, because so we talked to DDP and Jake the Snake.
Wow.
And DDP, he has a baby. Would you take that risk?
No.
Of someone being around all these people and then come in and, after these tapings with your family, your kids. He's absolutely right. And Jake the Snake, he knows it. It's not like he's angry about it. So he's self-quarantined for 3 to 4 weeks. And he basically said, I was trying to help AEW out and now I'm paying the price.
Yeah.
He should not be put in that position. This is not a WWE thing. It's AEW too for a young company. And they're putting these guys in this position.
Well, then you have Impact trying to act like they're the big dog, and they're going and doing tapings in Tennessee. In Tennessee, it shut everything down. And Impact's risk and reward is far less in reward than what AEW's and WWE is.
Impact should put a replay of an episode from 6 years ago and no one would notice, this is... I respect Tessa Blanchard. I think she's done a hell of a job and everything, but no one is watching Impact Wrestling right now. It's not. They are now Nielsen. They're rated by the Nielsen ratings, and they're not in the top 150, even close ever.
Yeah. When Brad Stevens pointing out in his super chat, the fact that 0 movies or TV series are being filmed currently and wrestling still is kind of crazy. No, it is. Outlaw mud shows. I mean, it's that carny mentality. It just kind of show. So Matt would say, if he were here, that this is Vince because he was so proud after 9/11. This is Vince trying to help America. And on the other side of the coin, no, this is some carny shit. Like,
I think Matt would say that too. You've seen his opinion turn a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm telling you, all it's going to take is somebody having gotten it who was just at a taping, and all of this will come tumbling down. It is a house of cards. And this is why WWE should tape 3 months worth of content right now, because I'm telling you, they are playing with fate, and it is just a matter of time till this bites them in the ass. Same with AEW.
Yeah. Whether it's
AEW at least got their tapings done right through May, at least up to the point of what they would have had to do double or nothing. So,
I mean, they got it done earlier, but it was still trying to skirt the system. Again with AEW, who was what was the guy's name? Nakazawa, rubbing baby oil all over himself and doing all that stuff.
At least that's a protective layer.
He did. If it turns out that he got it and then everyone in that match got it, it doesn't matter how, if you started 3 days earlier. You knew the risk going in, and to take it, and then the wrestler falling for it, that falls on you.
Raj, seriously, the way you're describing this now, this is starting to sound like the porn industry in the 80s. Like, this is what this has turned into.
And, I honestly think that, look, I think WWE as a publicly traded company, if a wrestler had coronavirus and it came out, I don't know, would they encourage them to just self-quarantine and stay quiet? I could see them like...
100%. 1,000%.
And AEW for sure would.
Yeah, well, because what would they have to gain? I mean, WWE stock was down to like $30 a couple weeks ago from a high, a year ago at 100. I guarantee you. Okay, so let's really put on our tinfoil hats a second. I would hazard a guess somebody on the roster has it now. They haven't been at tapings, but if someone on the roster has it, we sure as hell aren't going to hear about it, because WWE would probably go to any length to stop that information from getting out there.
Right? I kind of agree with you. I mean, they are a publicly traded company, and I think if they did come forward with it, the only reason I could see them doing it is because they are a publicly traded company, not because they wanted to.
Yeah, but they're not subject to like Freedom of Information Act. And remember, I'll go a step further, Raj. Remember, these aren't employees. There are no records. They're independent contractors. WWE has nothing to do with their healthcare outside of the ring. WWE could absolutely cover this up. So Carrie the G Gilbert with the super chat saying wrestlers don't have to work if they don't want to. We're talking about this, but Raj, as we're talking about this,
Carrie, it ain't that simple.
Yes, well,
either he hasn't been following wrestling long enough, or it
ain't that simple.
Yeah, anyone that has followed wrestling for any point in time knows.
I mean, if you're a top established guy who's a big money maker, like a Roman Reigns, you could get, and the fact that you beat leukemia twice, then you get a pass, you get a hall pass of, okay, we'll send you home because we don't want to be the ones who are blamed for your death. But if I'm just saying, if you're a top guy, there's a certain pass. But if you're not an established top guy and there's a very short elite list of that, then it is just inherent wrestling nature that you are going to be paranoid, whether it's actually what happened or not, that you're paranoid that if you don't show up, you're going to lose your spot.
Well,
so
Raj, we've seen it time and time again. You see a wrestler get injured and they're taken out of their spot.
Yeah,
time
and if your 74-year-old boss is insisting, and he's the only sport and entertainment that is moving on and still taping as we're talking about, if your 74-year-old boss seems to not have much fear that he wants to publicly express about this, do you think he's going to show a lot of sympathy if you're random mid-card person? Again, if you're Roman Reigns or an elite talent, different story. But majority of them are not the elite, main eventers. So.
And again, this isn't a WWE thing. This is WWE, AEW, any company that's putting on when everyone else is shut down. It's MMA and WWE, and not WWE, but WWE is pro wrestling. Let's face it. AEW is not a percentage of what they're a third of what WWE does. So
I would argue that they probably feel like they're under more pressure, especially with the TNT deal and how swimmingly things have been going.
They don't
on that
have
front.
the money that WWE has, where they probably feel the pressure, but everyone else is shut down.
Well, so let me ask you this, Raj. By us covering it, are we enabling in this codependent relationship with WWE and AEW? By the fans watching it, are we complicit, if not complacent, in these transgressions?
Well, look, I mean, Tony Khan has been upset with us recently, so we did.
What happened?
Well, so we did that. We did an article a few weeks ago. The tapings a couple of weeks ago, or I guess it was last week. Every week feels like 4 weeks right now.
Seriously.
But Tony Khan was upset that we had stated that that officials showed up and were looking to possibly shut the tapings down, which was actually the case. But he downplayed it and whatever. So he was texting us about it. But it's like, you wouldn't have to deal with this if you're not doing this at all. This is not the time to put on the bare minimum and skate by what your contract states. Just do what's responsible. And I don't know, man. I have a lot of issues with wrestling right now. I find the product as unexciting as it's ever been in front of an empty crowd. And I feel like instead of pausing and building this big return when things get back to normal, if who knows when they get back to normal, but that's still better than this lame ass product that they're putting on right now.
Are you trying to hint towards you're going to sell your wrestling website?
Absolutely not.
Not in this down economy.
No way. No way.
Yeah. Arian Gomez, $2 saying, are AEW or WWE taking every wrestler's temperature? I'm sure they are, and I'm sure they're taking it rectally to be extra accurate. But that being said, just having a fever isn't proof positive one way or the other.
Well, here's one of the problems with testing for coronavirus. One thing, the temperature is such a small percentage, not a small percentage, but 50%, or it's like 47% of people are asymptomatic. So you're getting about half of, and if they got a fever, okay, you take them off, but there's still half that are asymptomatic. And then of that asymptomatic half, there's a ton of false negatives, not false positives, because false positives are very rare. So if you test positive for COVID, you've got it. But right now with the if you test negative, it's a 50-50. So the false negatives are like the 50%. So anyway, I know that wasn't very clear, but
no, but it's not perfect and it's not guaranteed. I mean,
it's 50-50 on if you test negative, you could still have it.
Yeah. Yeah, and who knows how long it takes symptoms to show up. It's I don't know. It's tough, man. I mean, it's tough to figure out where do we draw a line on all of this. I mean, like we've said, we're fine to keep doing the podcast even if there's no wrestling going on. So for us, it's not going to change. I feel like the Boneyard match and Firefly Funhouse, I give them massive credit for that. Neither of those would have been nearly as good in the constraints of a wrestling ring in a traditional environment. But that being said, tonight, I mean, Raj, like tonight's show was pretty okay, but would the world have lost something by tonight's show not going on? No, not at all.
Have you guys watched any of the late night talk shows where they're doing the split screen? Like the other night they had Colbert and Conan. I think if you did The Rock and Austin, split screen talking about their match and you show the match, I think that would be way better. You're not putting anyone's lives are at risk, and you would draw ratings. I don't know. I think that this is going to draw fans.
In 2 weeks, they're starting the 25-year celebration of Triple H. I'd probably be more entertained than the average SmackDown they could put together to have, like you said, Triple H and maybe a rotation of other panel people, whether it's guys he had matches against or whoever, and putting on some classic Triple H matches and just talking, or maybe there's a live chat and Triple H reads a few comments and answers a few tidbit questions about the match. I mean, I'd be all for that.
Absolutely, I think that would be way more interesting than what they're putting on right now.
You know, when they showed the repeat of the Rumble of Brock winning the Rumble, or not Brock, or Drew winning the Rumble, but Brock obviously going to number one. I would have loved to have a little box of Paul Heyman there, just giving narration to the match. I mean, just any of that stuff. It would I'd be all for it.
Yeah, and you talk about Triple H, you replay his WCW matches with William Regal, and you have them both there.
Oh,
I think
there you
it'd
go.
be fascinating. Yeah, I said that in a weird way, but fascinating to people watching. And I think there's so many things you can do that don't have to be these, to me, boring matches. And I know some people like these matches and they're like, oh, it's, you don't like wrestling, it's still, they're doing it for us. No, first of all, they're putting themselves at risk and their health at risk, and we see people of all ages dying. Granted, they're not in that, the danger group but of dying, but anyone of any age can get it.
Well, the news headlines for today are former and SmackDown. Let's finish the last 2 or 3 SmackDown.
It's hilarious that the Forgotten Sons is where we stopped talking and just went off on this tangent.
We forgot about SmackDown.
The Forgotten Sons versus Lucha House Party. Forgotten Sons won.
Hey, can I just say, they beat Lince Dorado and Graham Metalik. Those two, and listen, I'm not just saying this off of tonight. I've been saying this about them for a while. Those two are two of the best cruiserweight smash wrestlers. The WWE kind of went on a surge of mass wrestlers and cruiserweights in the last couple of years with 205 Live and such. Those two are two of the best that they have.
Yeah. Forgotten Sons will be interesting to see how this plays out. Alexa Bliss, Nikki Cross backstage celebrating and interrupted by Carmella and Dana Brooke. So what's going on with this? They're going to have a tag team match?
Yeah.
There you have it. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Let's talk about Sasha and Bayley. Promo where Bayley referred to Sasha as the blueprint.
Okay.
Tamina
some breaking news. You guys want to hear it, or should we wait till after we
break the breaking news? It is breaking. It'll be broken if you wait.
So they're taping all this stuff. Raw and SmackDown this week are going to be back to live.
Ooh, really?
So they're taping content. I don't have all the details.
This Monday. So this Monday's Raw will be live. This Monday's Raw will be live. But then the following week wouldn't be then because it'll be already taped.
No, it's going to be live.
No, I know.
So I saw
this. Hang on.
Yeah.
This Monday's Raw is live. But if they're taping stuff, that would mean that the following Monday's probably is not live.
Yeah, probably.
Why would they do that? Why would they?
I saw these. So Raj, I was seeing people tweet about this from some names that I consider a little reputable, but it's still, I was like, oh, this is just a crazy rumor. So I mean, after everything we just talked about, now with this, this is fucking idiotic. If I'm a WWE stockholder or on the board of directors, this is just asking for shit to go wrong.
That's all I'm seeing right now. So I again, before I post it on the site, I guess we're talking about that.
That's the benefit of people watching the podcast.
Yes, Thomas Simpson, $9.99. Only way WWE says someone has coronavirus is if they're dying. They only care about the money, not their talent. They deserve a month off. We'll be okay for a month. Show old matches like Raj said. Look, I don't think they're going to say if someone's dying. I think it would take someone being dead and probably their family. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to cast aspersions on what WWE would do if someone passed away, and that would be tragic and horrible. I'm sure they would have to acknowledge it then. But no, I mean, this is just so stupid. You're going to have wrestlers now that are going home. Are they self-quarantining? Again, I don't want to throw shade, but remember all the photos on Instagram and Twitter of the wrestlers that were out at Disney World's last night open, partying out there, posting photos? Can we trust all of the talent to not do anything to put themselves and the locker room at risk? I just think it's one thing if you're going to batch tape it when everybody's on lockdown quarantine, but this is the stupidest idea.
I'm going to look into it as soon as we get off.
Carrie the G Gilbert says WWE does on YouTube already with the rewatching matches. Yes, and they could just show it on the air. I mean, the same way they're showing Ruthless Aggression on FS1. They can cut together some great stuff They could even use it to build feuds, intersperse that with wrestlers cutting promos at home.
You could show just by the 15-minute tease. You could show this Undertaker Last Ride limited series on Raw or SmackDown's place, and I'd be more hooked on that.
Oh shit. Okay. Oh jeez.
What?
So apparently tomorrow's tapings are canceled. So, all right. You know what? I'll just get it everything at once and. Okay.
You're really teasing us on this. You're really stringing me along.
Okay,
so they only shot one episode today, apparently. So it did seem like originally there was taping a ton of stuff. Looks like they only shot one episode, and I will get the rest up here on Wrestling Inc. in the next day or so. I need to.
Are you guys seeing this idiotic attitude? And I saw some people in the media that I used to really respect last night talking about, 500 people dead in California out of, 40 million. Good thing we shut everything down. People that are so idiotic, they don't realize that if the death toll is not, it's still bad, but because it's not horrific in 6 digits at this point, it's because we've taken these drastic measures. Vince seems like that type of guy, especially if he wants to go forward with this live taping, of thinking, it was all an overreaction.
We also have to keep in mind, Vince got to be one of less than a dozen people on a phone call with the president, with all the other sports commissioners, and I guarantee, as Major League Baseball, as NHL, NBA, they're all trying to figure out a way, to finish their seasons, to start the seasons, whether it's in empty stadiums or what have you. I guarantee on that phone call at some point, President Trump said, "Now we have Vince McMahon, owner of the WWE. Vince, you guys have moved on with programming. Why don't you give some insight of how you guys have done it, how you guys have pulled it off, to try to give ideas to how the baseball and."
Well, the first thing is you have to really not give a shit fundamentally about your talent. But that's first and foremost.
But do you see what I mean? Though, like, if the Florida governor is allowing them to continue to tape, and if the president of the United States is saying, "Wow, good for you that you're able to still keep doing this and persevere over top of this." Not that Vince needed it, but what is he? What's gonna? Why would he stop? He's getting all the encouragement from influential movers and shakers, the president of the United States. Well,
we're in a new world, guys.
SOS TDM $2 super chat. You all should do some old school reviews. We've talked about it, and it might come to that. If we start boycotting,
yeah, well, no, we're not. But if WWE and AEW really did go dark, if they actually did go dark, that's what we'd have to do to keep the podcast going.
Well, seriously, how soon do you honestly think that things will get back to where people are going to arenas?
Maybe late summer, and I think that'll be short-lived.
My best hope is that by SummerSlam they could have people back. And I also speak to this from a personal standpoint, because right now high school sports is not happening. And I run a high school sports network, and if I don't have high school sports going, so I'm hoping that they're coming back. And in PA specifically, things are really bad on the other side of the state in the county where Philadelphia is. But over here on the western side of the state, Pittsburgh, which is the 22nd or 23rd largest city of the country, knock on wood here, we are actually our curve has been we haven't had the surge, is what I'm saying. The doctors have actually said social distancing is working. We have had some deaths, but we have not hit the surge that they thought. So I have the hope of high school sports is something that can be governed state by state. College and pros has to go across the entire country, but state by state, my hope is, God, they just officially canceled school for the rest of the academic year yesterday. My hope is that fall sports is back this fall, because I want to get back to that normal life.
I would love for it too. I just don't see what changes. So in Colorado, March 5th, we had 0 coronavirus cases, right? Now we're at 20,000 or whatever we're at.
But if you look at China, China, this started in China in December, right? So January, February, March, April, so about 4 months, and China's just started. So I figure if this started in mid to late March
now
here,
they're starting to see an increase already.
China.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Japan. So Japan also, they were seeing a pretty flat rate, and then all of a sudden now they're in a state of emergency. So.
And you know what'll fuck shit up big time? Arena shows. And we get one infected person in a situation where there's 80,000 people. And I mean, that, look at Italy. Look at the amount of sporting events. Look at a social culture. I'm just saying this can all go off the rails real quick. I think until we have a workable vaccine.
Italy was also a worst case scenario because the culture of how close they are just as people.
Sure.
You go to the
in New York.
You go to the Vatican. How many people go to the Vatican every day?
It's true.
Northern Italy has a huge pipeline to China business-wise. So Italy was doomed for the way that their entire setup is.
And that's what you kind of see that with New York right now, with how close everyone is, and that's why they got hit the hardest. But
let me just show this right here: 500,000, 500,000 confirmed cases in the U.S. That's not worldwide.
so
Almost
we're
20,000
far
deaths.
Beyond.
Yeah.
Every
Look at all
country.
this red and look at all these dots here. And you tell me that live events are coming back anytime soon? I mean, and this is with all the crazy aggressive measures. I don't know. It's just crazy. I mean, I think that we have to prepare for the worst in this reality. And what WWE is doing, Raj, I'm sure you're going to confirm this as soon as possible. But this just sounds like I will be shocked if no one can talk Vince out of this. And if you tell me anyone else thinks this is a good idea in the company aside from him, I will not believe you. This sounds like him, everything we know about him and his defiance.
The word I'm getting right now is that they canceled tomorrow's taping. Only one was shot today. So
That's so ballsy.
But is ballsy the right word?
I'm going to go with ballsy.
Ballsy is like wearing slacks.
Grapefruits.
Ballsy is wearing slacks with red cowboy boots. Like, this is
we're making movies.
Yes. Speaking of which, Peter
That's not
Bahi,
water, Raj. He takes a sip of water and switches it around. That's not water, Raj.
Peter Bahi,
You're on the Undertaker diet there.
Well, the thing WWE and AEW should film it like a real TV show, like Glow. Wrestling matches in an empty arena makes no sense. I agree. I don't know why and especially given what just happened with Mania. Everybody's talking about the Boneyard match and Firefly Funhouse. Like, why not figure out some ways to go off the standard plans?
Well, and not just that. I mean, you're still putting Taker and AJ and everyone. Why not come up with new programming? Why not find a new system?
Here's the ironic thing too is that the cinematic matches, after watching the Boneyard match, you can extend Taker's career because that's a type of thing where it thrives his character doing those kind of cinematic, post-produced, soundtrack, and the stunts can be done 40 times with any kind of protectiveness you need. So it's not live stunts like wrestling in a ring is. I mean, so this can help a lot of the older guys and their characters and their bodies to hold up.
And I came up with this idea to have Undertaker versus Sting.
And
all these people have been ripping off my idea.
I'd rather see a post-produced Undertaker versus Sting Boneyard match than a live in the ring Undertaker versus Sting in Saudi Arabia.
No, I was taking the idea from you guys off the podcast, but I think that would.
Now you attribute us.
Well, let me put this out there even more so, though, Raj, on how they could do this. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens live relatively close to each other. They're good friends. I am sure they could say, hey, you're going to get a quarantine buddy that you are responsible for. And Kevin Owens, I don't care if your wife is holding the goddamn camera. You guys are responsible for producing, 20 minutes worth of content, a handful of promos and a match. And we're going to put it on TV if it's even remotely watchable. Like, they could do this in a way that's smart, that does not jeopardize people en masse by making them all travel to one central freaking location. That is the great flaw in all of this, and having them commingle with different people.
Well, I know, as most people, that we want this shit to end. We want this stuff to stop.
Yeah,
we want
nobody's rooting for this to keep going.
And so it would only help if WWE, AEW stop taping, stop risking the spread, show responsibility, show that they're in with every fucking one else, and that we're all in this together. Because by defying the rules, they're giving this impression that, hey, it's not so bad. We can do this. True.
Especially if they're live.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we'll take temperatures and all that. That's not what it takes.
They've always took pride in being ahead of everybody. They're the first public assembly of its kind after 9/11. 2 days out. I mean, and granted 9/11 is different than what this is in some ways, but They take pride in always being they try to be a step ahead. They take pride. Pride.
Yes, they brought freedom to the Middle East
right.
with their shows in Saudi Arabia.
Well, that episode, they were turning the Middle East into a parking lot. Was what JBL said. And that was the sentiment, that was the sentiment that in the country. But
this has been a great show, by the way. I did not expect to have so much fun on this Friday night. I thought I was going to yawn, half-assed. This has been a fun show.
Yes,
but this is kind of the point, though. It's like the story. This is going to be the story.
This is unlike anything we've experienced in our lives. This is a movie that we're living in right now. And the fact that WWE is not being a leader when they can be, when every other sports league is, it's fucking disappointing.
They made the movie. It's called Contagion.
Yeah.
Well, and
WWE is still holding sporting events while people are getting food on the side in Contagion.
I mean, I'm a big believer in tragic, ironic foreshadowing. Like, not that I'm a believer in it, like I'm in favor of it, but I believe that it happens. So I never try to do things. I try and think ahead. And think about the NBA player who touched all the mics and made the jokes, and then he had coronavirus. I feel like WWE being defiant about this is just setting up for reality to give them the ultimate punchline and kick them in the ass.
This is a serious thing. It's not.
Do you find there's definitely a connection, Raj, to Vince moving his investors meeting
to 5 p.m.
after the stock exchange bell will close,
and they can't take questions afterward because of COVID.
Can't take questions because of COVID.
So because we can't take a phone call because of COVID.
We can put it on WrestleMania, but we can't hear from the investors. I'm sorry, we're not set up for it.
Oh my God, what was that?
What's the stock doing in after hours trading?
I meant to text you when I got that email.
God. All right. So you heard about this, right?
I heard about the share price today and what happened.
So so WWE, they're going to be reporting their Q1 earnings. And this sounds so crazy that I don't want to.
Well, the first part of it is normally they do them on Thursdays at 11 a.m. That's been the time for years. And they said, okay,
I've never been on one that wasn't that.
Right. They said, okay, we're going to do it on Thursday later this month in April, but we're going to do it at 5 p.m. Which, first off, to me, that signaled a couple things. One, the stock exchange closes at 4, so any bad news that you have to report, it's not going. It's already going to be the day of trading will be done. 2, 5 p.m. That's when like all the news is hitting. That's when your news. That's when your local news is happening. That's when your nightly news is already in makeup. Like so, you kind of miss that. You kind of get away from that daily news cycle, right?
Because they don't cover stock.
Yeah. So that and then Raj can pick it up here. Then they said, oh, and by the way, we're also not going to be taking the normal questions, which normally this would be where you get the questions of like, hey, Vince, what about Saudi Arabia? What about WrestleMania being sold off to ESPN and what you're talking about? Or, hey, Vince, why not cancel? Why are you still taping? And they're not going to have any of that because there'd be a risk, apparently.
The thing that surprised me, and maybe someone in the chat room can help me out, is why are they doing it on Thursday? I would think they would do it on Friday at 5. After the close of the market, it tempers down over the weekend. But they're doing it on Thursday. So that was the only thing that I was like, why are you still doing it on Thursday? Anyway, and again, it's not just going down on WWE. I have a problem with AEW doing all this too. They're not public. They're not near the size. But, Jake the Snake, talking to him and the fact that he is basically stuck in a hotel for the next 3 or 4 weeks because he went to the last AEW taping shows how fucked up the situation is.
Joe Cafaro, $3.99 says maybe Vince is waiting for AEW to shut down first. I don't think that's necessarily
the worst thing for WWE fans would be for AEW to shut down.
In terms of
competition, Vince, being on top of his game, keeping talent happy, just the whole 9 yards.
How do you think Vince is feeling? He had to shut down the XFL. I mean, this has been a.
We didn't talk about this, huh?
We haven't got into
We're not going to finish
headlines.
We're not going to finish. Okay, so here's what happened. Tamina came out saying she wants to face Bayley for the championship. Said you got to beat Sasha, the boss, the standard, the blueprint, the GOAT first. So that's going to happen next week.
I have a strange attraction right now to Bailey as his heel Bailey. Just want to say that, and the haircut. I have a strange attraction. Go ahead.
An hour and 9 minutes in, Justin gets weird with it, folks.
I've been waiting to say it for a while, but we veered off on this time.
Also weird that earlier Raj said, I don't mean to go down on WWE or AEW. It's like, that was a weird Freudian slip. Let's not revisit that right now.
Or Ryback.
Sheamus versus Cal Bloom. Squash match. Sheamus beat Cal pretty easily. And then
Jeff Hardy
video. That was cool. Good seeing that.
They had to do everything they could to avoid showing or even having any commentary in the clips say Matt Hardy.
Yes. They announced next week we're gonna have Dana Brooke versus Naomi and Cesaro versus Daniel Bryan. Those are Money in the Bank qualifier matches. So Dana Brooke's gonna wrestle with Carmella in a tag match against the Kabuki Warriors and solo against Naomi next week. That's interesting. Mandy Rose is going to clear the air with Sonya Deville. Sasha Banks versus Tamina Snuka, and there'll also be a triple threat. But then the main event, Braun Strowman versus Shinsuke Nakamura. Now, of course, Braun got the win here, but this was a credible match. Cesaro was out there ringside and tried to interfere, got in the mix. Braun looked dominant. That's not the real story. The real story is what happened afterwards. The Firefly Funhouse interrupting Braun's celebration, and Bray appearing on screen clearly is done with John Cena, said the Fiend finished him off. Now we cannot see him. He was right all along. And he wanted to congratulate Wyatt, Wyatt wanted to congratulate Braun, but said that this was a long time coming. He hopes Strowman's learned his lesson. We saw flashes of Strowman in the Wyatt family. Bray wants Braun to apologize, to thank him, apologize for turning his back on his family. And Wyatt said he could forgive Strowman, but the puppets disagreed. And Braun said he's not playing his games. So they're setting this up for the feud. Who do you got in this, Justin? Who do you want to see win between Bray and Braun?
I mean, I'm so torn here because I've been waiting for 3.5 years. It took 3.5 years in a pandemic for Braun to get his title. But of course, I love Bray and I love the Fiend, dynamic. I hold out hope that if this is what they're building towards for Money in the Bank or whatever the next pay-per-view is, I hold out hope that for as long as you're in an empty arena, you're not going to have a Fiend in the ring match. You're going to have a cinematic thing because the Fiend and Undertaker, you do not want to put those supernatural characters in an empty arena situation. So I don't know, but I'm intrigued by Bray and Braun because of the history, and Braun looked a little tough, just kind of laughing at him, and we went off the air with Braun's music, and Bray really pissed off, staring him down. So it intrigues me, but this is not the time I'd expect to get that feud. But I was intrigued. This made me say, okay, I wanted to see SmackDown now because I saw this.
Who do you got, Raj, between Bray and Braun? Who do you want to see win?
First, I don't think Bray should be in that world title picture. I think he's a whole different entity, like The Undertaker was for so long. You keep him as a separate attraction away from the world title picture, and then once you have to, you do it. But I see Bray. Braun, they cooled him off greatly. He was only in there. Triple H said that they had this great idea for Braun, or a unique idea for Braun taking over Roman Reigns' place, and it was just randomly saying his name really quick. Braun's title reign came as cold as it could be, and Justin, we've talked about this forever. Braun is a superstar. He should have a real story and a real path to the title, as opposed to just a throwaway mention, on the SmackDown before. So, but
it's so tough. How do you, I don't want to dive back into what we just but I just want to put this up. If WWE is going to continue to do shows, we have to accept that. How do you book moving forward? Like, if it turns out that until the middle of the fall, the rest of your shows are in this situation,
right?
Do you burn? I'm sure they have. I mean, Vince is always a year out. I'm sure he had ideas and plans for SummerSlam in Boston with Gronk and with Cena, and I'm sure there's ideas. Like, do you still
all this was in the last month?
Yeah. Do you still burn those good ideas, knowing that you're in this audible situation? Do you still do it, or or?
I think part of the problem is I don't think Vince sees any of these guys as people that he sees a year from now, like where he's trying to take them. I think everything is short term right now. I mean, none of these WrestleMania matches were planned 3 months ago. Let me double check that.
That's the only
chat of the night. I was never given a name. Someone please send Drew Gulak to give Vince a 280-page PowerPoint presentation on why this all is a bad idea. If only it were that easy. I'm sure it'd be a hell of a setup, though, for Drew to get interrupted, and we'd probably do a match.
So Drew and Brock was only planned right before the Rumble, but none of these were planned out before that. You're seeing the lack of confidence, the lack of creating new superstars, and you know what? I love what they're doing with Drew. That's how you create a new superstar. I don't have the faith that they're going to stick through it. You just keep seeing it.
Yeah, I think Drew's next challenge will be something crazy. It'll be like a returning Jinder Mahal or something.
That could be good.
They'll play off their history, and Jinder's back in good shape. That'll be like the.
I would like it if Jinder wasn't a jobber before they did it. I'd like a Rocky movie is not a Rocky, and I know Justin, it falls on deaf ears because you haven't seen a Rocky movie. But when you're building a Creed, we'll say Creed, right? The Drago, when Creed is going to fight Drago, it's not like Drago's losing half his fights before they get to the Creed fight, right? It takes away from it.
Yes.
You want two badass guys, like the two undefeated guys or two unstoppable forces meeting up. Jinder's not that guy. So, and honestly, there's no one really on the Raw side other than Brock.
When's Samoa Joe going to be healthy?
Samoa Joe is losing all the time too. But
I'm just trying to think of who the hell you have to line up against Drew.
I know. I mean, they could do Joe, but they weren't really protecting him either. I mean, they easily could have him choke him out and move to that. And it's not the first time that they've done it.
Because Seth lost. They're going to have a guy that lost come up and beat. I mean, I don't know.
Seth lost to Kevin Owens twice at WrestleMania, but they still could. Look, Ryback lost to Mark Henry, right? Everyone knows that Ryback is the best wrestler that has never won. No, I'm just kidding. But Ryback, seriously, this is the true case. So Ryback lost to Mark Henry, and the next night they put him in the feud with John Cena. So who knows?
So what news stories do we have? What news stories do we have? Well,
the XFL shutdown.
XFL shutdown. That's huge.
I'm surprised Vince isn't trying to tape that at the Performance Center.
This is nuts because, again, I mean, this is going to be the worst couple months of business for Vince. I mean, he had his back up against the wall at the last investors meeting, and he tried to rally and say, "Look, we're going to have a big announcement the next one." And he basically hinted that he's going to sell off Mania, right?
Oh yeah.
And now the XFL, now Raj, correct me if I'm wrong. I saw the first story I saw today. I don't know who broke what, so I won't. But the first story I saw was XFL's laid off a lot of its employees, has kept a few essential employees, and I just read that as okay, makes sense. A lot of companies are having to furlough employees essentially until they get revenue and business back, and then you bring it all back. XFL season next year for February, that's a long ways away. But then it's sounding like, correct me if I'm wrong, that XFL insiders or sources are saying no, the league is done. Why would it be done? Why would you not wait? Is it a money thing because Vince borrowed all that money to invest in it, and he needs the money now for WWE, or what is it?
So there's a few different theories. One is that that they're just pausing and completely halting operations until things get back to normal. So they suspended next year, so the 2021 season. So that's out. And Oliver Luck, it's not official what his status is, but I'm guessing he's out. And so this is effectively taking. Why? I think because. So here's my thought of what's going on, and we can debate it, but I think that WWE is losing a ton of money. Right now, actually, they're not losing a ton of money. They're losing cash. Business is going down. I think Vince sees the XFL and doesn't see a winner, and he'd rather focus on his core business that needs it.
Right, because the original XFL was like a 5-year plan. You're going to lose money the first 2 or 3 years, prove yourself, make some money on year 4, year 5.
Yeah, and I think that this is showing that as weeks went on, it wasn't gaining popularity; it was declining week after week after week. So I think it's just like the coronavirus was almost a scapegoat in the fact that now he sees where it was going. It wasn't. He probably could have made some money off of it, but it wasn't going to be the game changer that he was thinking it was going to be. So that's my guess.
All right, that makes sense. Some sense.
Some.
What sense doesn't it make?
Well, I mean, it makes some. I don't know. I just felt like just to definitively say like we're not having a season next year. I mean, when we're 11 months from or 10 months from now.
I bet you there's some contractual stuff though in all this that if he wanted to start it up again, this could be a little maneuvering, given their deals with some people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But what else do we got? What are the news stories?
Revival finally got released.
We haven't talked about the Revival yet?
No, Raj, where have you been? We have done nothing but talk about SmackDown, coronavirus, and I think that Bailey's haircut's really hot. We have not touched on well.
I was saying, Justin. Okay, so it's funny that you brought that up tonight because I swear to God, I go out of my way to never try and comment on women's wrestler or male, like I actually comment on male wrestlers because I'm just saying, like you finally broke after all these years.
I'm not sexualizing this whole thing.
Actually, that's not true.
Then can since he did,
sure.
I think it's
your show.
Sasha's hot as hell.
I did, what I'm thinking about? Remember when I did, and I don't even know why I stopped, but it was when Lana wrestled Charlotte at Money in the Bank all those years ago, and I kept saying Lana's outfit. Good Lord. All the boys that started watching that that wrestling match became men by the end of it.
Glenn, it doesn't make you chauvinist or less of a man if you get a little turned on watching a hot woman on TV. Now, let me just say, Bailey,
absolutely not. That's ridiculous.
Don't be ashamed.
Would say that. Don't
be ashamed. You do not need Blue Chew to get excited to watch a Bailey match. What I'm trying to say is I found something oddly intriguing about annoying Bailey. The way her and Sasha were delivering that Tamina and no girl, oh, you're lucky I'm holding her back. The whole thing was just kind of like, I am kind of digging soccer mom, thinks she's cool as shit. Bailey, I don't know. I'd be cool if she drove a minivan in for her entrance while Becky's driving a giant big rig. I'm okay with it. Raj, to answer your question, no, we have not talked about the Revival. We have not talked about Ronda Rousey saying screw the fans, and we have not talked about which WrestleMania night got the better viewership. So we should probably get to that.
Let's get to that after we talk about how hot Sasha is. So after you.
Okay.
All right, let's go.
Okay.
We'll cut this whole part out. Apparently,
I'm not editing shit tonight. This podcast has gone on so goddamn long.
The first 6-hour post SmackDown podcast.
Yeah, Jesus. There's so much to talk about. Okay, so the Revival, Matt Morgan said, guys, get that money from WWE. They did not. WWE has immediately released them. Ryan Satin saying there is no 90-day clause.
Yeah,
where
WWE said it was immediate.
Immediate.
It was an immediate release.
Immediate.
Well, Scott Dawson, his contract was up already this month.
Yeah. So AEW, right?
So it's kind of a smart business move because even still, it's kind of like even still, it's the same as they don't have to pay them now. They don't have to pay. They don't have to keep paying these guys. So it makes sense. You don't have to keep paying them.
AEW's done doing tapings through mid-May. They have no tapings.
So it's kind of a smart move by WWE. If you know you're going to get rid of them anyways, and you know where they're going to go, if the place they're going to go can't use them at least until June probably, and you don't want to pay them, and you're losing money as we've documented here, or you lost out on a lot of budget of money you thought you were going to get WrestleMania weekend. It's kind of a smart. It really is a smart brew.
Agreed. So, yeah, I think they'll get a major pop when they show up at AEW. Hopefully, their career.
Oh, there's so much business to be done between them and the Young Bucks. I mean, the Revival is the epitome of what their characters and their style. The no flips, just fists. They stand for so much of what the opposite is of what AEW is built on in their fan base, and especially the Young Bucks. So,
they are the if they instantly go to the Revival versus the Young Bucks, I think they're going to do a good pay-per-view buy. You know, it's not like they're going to double or anything. You know, they've been doing 100,000 buys. Maybe 110, maybe 100. That's not a ratings move, though. The Revival are not going to move ratings, but that hardcore fan base, they will get them to buy pay-per-view buys. So, you know, they're not business changers, but
no.
Yeah.
And I know, but they're guys that can fill a spot for the long term. They add to that tag division, and I know Jim Cornette's never going to work for AEW. Obviously, Jim Cornette fits the bill to be a manager for Revival, but Arn Anderson would also fit a bill to be a manager of the Revival. You know, that same kind of old school grit that they have, the jackets, the fanny packs, that fits very much. I mean, when they show up there, and it's inevitable, they will. You're right. It's not going to change the world, but it's a great acquisition for guys that turn down big money from WWE.
Are you stealing my tweet? Because I said Arn Anderson managing the Revival, Cody, and Wardlow. I mean, not Cody. I'm sorry, MJF and Wardlow.
No, he's not managing.
He's not managing
Wardlow. I manage Wardlow. And no, I don't. Do I even follow you, Raj? I don't even know.
No. Baby Maharaja $2. Dawson's better on the mic than Seth Rollins. What's their name gonna be? What do you think they're gonna do? Shatter Machine
or Sheep Ladies? Maybe. Maybe.
Wait, what's the Revival's name gonna be in AEW?
Yeah.
I bet you the name's gonna be #FTR, and they're gonna find a new acronym for what FTR is.
Okay.
Because I think that was one of the things they trademarked.
Fuck.
I bet you they'll be called like #FTR, but they'll find some new acronym.
I think that's smart.
It won't be quite as cool as the Voodoo Kid Mafia, but it'll be a cool acronym.
Oh my god!
There's a pull from the past.
Peter Bahi, $5, best podcast episode ever. No wrestling talk, just hot chick talk and wrestling news. More of this, please.
Have you guys seen Lana and Mandy Rose's latest dance-offs?
No.
TikToks?
Raj? It's all their
TikToks, Raj?
Michael Sachs Jr., $2. I think Lacey Evans is hot. There you go, Justin.
She is.
Raj is there quarantining, watching the TikToks.
I'm trying to do the dance.
God!
What? How come you're not posting a TikTok? Like Raj, come on, step it up, man.
There's a podcast.
I don't know how it works.
So, after what else do we got, news wise?
What do we have? Which WrestleMania, Glenn? Which night do you think did the better viewership? Night 1 or night 2?
I'm gonna say night 2.
Wrong. According to Dave Meltzer, night 1 did the better viewership.
Can I shoot on Dave Meltzer here for a second?
Oh boy.
I never have actually, because I respect the hell out of him.
The greatest lead-ins tonight. Raj and I, or Ryback and I were talking. That was lead-in number 1. And lead-in number 2.
So Ryback and I were talking.
Can I shoot on Dave Meltzer real quick?
I need to say something.
Say it.
So Dave Meltzer, a couple of weeks ago, was talking about some All Japan Pro Wrestling match where two guys were staring at each other for 15 minutes. And he was like, oh, this is actually pretty entertaining. And then he's ripping Randy Orton and Edge for their last man standing match where they're beating the hell out of each other for 30 minutes. 15 minutes in. So he will take two guys staring at each other in Japan for 15 minutes as opposed to two guys, one guy coming out for his first match ever out of, what was it, 9 years?
Yes.
His first match out, and he's ripping that guy and that match and talking about how it's Chinese torture and he's being tortured. And he's watching two guys staring at each other for 15 minutes, and that's fine.
Well, I also think
the bias is strong.
Well, I also think, look, I mean, Dave probably gets the most heat and resistance from WWE and in the last 25, 30 years. So there probably is a sense of I don't want to say bitterness. I mean, the guy obviously is self-sustaining his own business with his operation. He's done well for himself, but I'm sure there's I don't think he gets that kind. He probably does not get the flack that he's gotten from WWE management, rightly or wrongly. he probably doesn't get the same thing from AEW or New Japan or Impact or ROH or anybody else. So probably just
it's more than that. Like a couple of weeks ago on Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave was like, he was watching an NXT match and he was like, "Oh my god, don't you hate it when they kick out at 2 and they sound shocked?" It's like that's every AEW match, right? But he won't say that for AEW. Yeah. But he's saying that for NXT.
My biggest problem with AEW is I hate the lack of, like, I always note this on Wednesday nights, like the lack of enforcing of 10 counts, the ref being buried and the ref being distracted for like 90 seconds. Like that stuff really bothers me.
100%. I mean, I have the same criticism, but I'm equally critical. But Meltzer will say that criticism for NXT, but not AEW. And when he's talking about like at WrestleMania with the Gronk thing, when there was 11 guys jumping at him, when at the AEW TV tapings, when they're all at ringside, it's like, they shouldn't do that. Like, it's very toned down. The criticism.
So I just Googled, so I guess this year, Dave will be, if Wikipedia's right, Dave will be 61. Like, if that's right.
I love Dave. This isn't.
Well, I mean, no matter what you think of Dave, and I agree with the criticism, Raj, there, or the points. Like, Dave has been a big. Dave has shaped wrestling media and internet. Like, I'm curious. Like, he's 61, so hopefully he's not going anywhere anytime soon. But like, I wonder, like, when he's done, like, what, like, if he ever says, "Okay, I'm done. I'm retiring. I'm hanging up. I made good money." Like, I'm curious, like, what. I don't know. I'm curious what happens if there's a, that newsletter's been so, for good or bad, been such a part of the business. After the Aftermags, it was the Observer newsletter. I'm just curious.
It is. It's what I grew up with, and you know what else I grew up with? Pro Wrestling Illustrated, and Stu Sachs, the managing editor of Pro Wrestling Illustrated. I have a big interview with him on Wrestling Inc. Daily this past week, so check it out. It's about 45 minutes we went. So,
hey, what happened with UFC and their plan to broadcast from an island?
Well, Dana White. So when I got into MMA doing Fightline, I used to think that Dana White was one of those guys that was more honest than most. He had to lie when he had to lie, and as a promoter, but he is a total dirty piece of shit. Honestly, in my opinion. And, to try to find scapegoats and these as little of a path possible to put on these fights. And Rose Namajunas lost two people in our family, pulled out of the co-main event. Dana White didn't come out and say why. I just think it's dirty. I think the whole thing is dirty. I think AEW, WWE putting on shows, UFC, it's just a shitty. It's just one of the low life signs of the times. Anyway.
Yeah, it's weird for somebody to look at everything that's going on right now at a time we're seeing unprecedented togetherness, and even people like Elon Musk, who were like exceptionally shitty about this early on. Turning a quarter in the spirit of unity and helping, to see people try and flagrantly try and get around the rules. Like, what do they say? A crisis really shows people's true colors. And I think with Dana White, it's both with him and Vince. This is not a good look. And but also not their first crack at being a shitbag. Like, if and we've said this before, it's not like, doesn't this with Vince, even with Dana, like, we're still paying attention to this stuff. We've accepted a certain level of just debaggery, but it's just they somehow find a way to keep disappointing us with the new low.
Justin?
In other news, it also should be known that Ronda Rousey, Ronda Rousey has said that she is not coming back full time because of those ungrateful fucking fans.
All right.
Bit of
back to what Glenn said.
Bit of a work, but I think it's fun to read.
So I will say, as a website owner, we have taken a big hit in Q2 with all the advertising revenue, but I don't give a fuck if it's wrestling shows being canceled for the sake of performers and the health. So be it, you know. People are suffering way worse than.
Oh yeah, Raj, your and my hardships are not stuff people should even is not even worth people's sympathy right now compared to some of the people out there that are really struggling, not only with life or death, but just with their ability to survive. Like we are both very fortunate, privileged, I believe some would say, to have the problems that we have.
We need to be business owners united to do whatever we can to curb this thing, whatever it may be, whatever sacrifices. And by sneaking by and being like, oh, we're gonna have these guys, you know, shirtless wrestling, they're spreading all sorts of germs. I mean, you know, it's gonna happen where this shit's gonna catch up to them, and it's not gonna be pretty. But we're in a pandemic, and this is how certain companies are operating, and it's
shows you who they really are in all this. And Justin, I know you've been affected obviously by this, but at the same time, it's like here we're all able to watch these shows week in and week out. We're able to podcast about it, come on here, spend time with this community. There's a lot of people in really terrible situations right now, and I just don't know why any company would be doing things to jeopardize their employees or make things worse. And this isn't unique. It's not like Dana White and Vince McMahon are the two dirtbags in all of this. They're like, screw what people are saying. We're going to turn a buck. There are lots of companies out there that are acting shitty. It just feels weird that this is like, especially with Vince, like this is what we cover.
Well,
this is what's adjacent.
Because they're greedy fucks.
Yeah.
And companies might be doing shady things, but they're doing it behind the scenes in a boardroom. Vince is doing it out in the open on television 3 times a week.
We don't know what he's not doing.
Vince you don't think he's way better than Dana White on this, but
yeah.
I would love for Vince and Dana going on that secret island and just that would
I said that should be Money in the Bank. Drop all the wrestlers on the secret island like the Hunger Games. That would be epic.
We made a Nathan Jones reference on Wednesday night. What was that movie with Steve Austin and Nathan Jones when they're all on the island? The Condemned. We could have the Condemned UFC WWE style. God,
6 feet apart the whole time.
And if the island is in the same hemisphere as Japan, Meltzer might give it 5 stars.
Well, let me
put Japanese wrestlers in. It's a 5-star match at least.
I mean, but let me
if they kick out at 2 constantly, then 6.
If Dana White or Vince McMahon said we're going to get an island, and you know what? If you can do this, we're going to bring you to this island and your family. We're going to put you up here for a month or 6 weeks. We're going to take care of all your expenses. It's going to be fine, and we're going to shoot some content. I would say, okay, well, that's a clever way to do something in the safest manner possible. But I think that just by looking like, like this thing that Vince is going to give everyone a letter saying you're an essential part of the media, like, just come on, dude. It's like, you're either on the side of the people or you're against them at this point. I just think this is really, really shady. I don't know. It's crazy. Raj, not how Raj thought he was going to be spending his Friday night.
You want to shoot, cowboy?
I don't know, man. I mean, I'm torn about this. What should we do, Raj? Should we be watching and covering this stuff? I mean, it's other people are going to if we're not.
Glenn,
I want to keep doing this podcast.
Glenn, you asked earlier, like, are we aiding to this problem? Vince is not continuing to do Raw, NXT, and SmackDown. He's like, well, God damn it, the Wrestling Inc. guys are still reviewing us, so we got to keep going.
If people stop watching
it's not happening that way.
Tweeting about it. If people stopped giving them attention, I guarantee you they would stop doing it. If there was enough. Look, we got the freaking Fabulous Moolah Battle Royale renamed because enough people freaked out and emailed Snickers. I guarantee you, if people
I wasn't part of that.
I actually do think that was a mistake.
Yeah.
No. Well, you know what? I do think that if we're speaking what's right, and no one else is. Get it out there. Why not? I do think. What I do think. Dave Meltzer is one of the guys I do listen to, but I do think he is underplaying WWE playing. Doing these shows right now because AEW is. I think he's going after UFC hard. He's not going after WWE and AEW because he has a bias towards AEW. And if AEW wasn't doing it, he'd be ripping WWE to shreds for doing shows right now. So, and I'm a huge Meltzer fan. I've been following him forever. But
well, just like we talked about with this, it's not to Dave's benefit if wrestling shuts down.
No.
And that's why, in a way, we're working against our own self-interest a little bit here.
He rips WWE to shreds for any little thing,
I'll be honest, I'm not subscribed to him. I only ever know what I read based upon transcripts that we aggregate. I don't listen to him, so I don't know. But I get the whole. I certainly believe that he.
Well, like I said, when he ripped an NXT match for them to kick out at 2. And act shocked when that is every AEW match that has ever happened. No, anyway,
I don't know. I'm going to keep doing this podcast regardless. I would do this podcast even if wrestling's not going on because I enjoy interacting with our chat room and hanging out with our listeners and viewers. But there is something to be said for where, or are we even as viewers, forget podcasters, as viewers, we are aiding and abetting in this risk to wrestler safety. Well, that is something to think about.
No, I think we're fans,
Well, it's been a Friday night of a so-so SmackDown. How's the viewership been tonight? Has this been worthwhile?
That's actually it's pretty good for a Friday. Raj, you should.
All I see is your two smiling faces. I don't see anything else. So I don't see all this data.
Right now, the live viewership is pretty good.
Yeah, especially for Friday night, especially for an hour and 41 minutes.
Jesus,
perhaps our longest Friday night podcast
let's get these last questions.
Wait until Matt sees this podcast. He's gonna be so mad.
He's not watching this podcast. Judge Waleed Barwani, $5 Canadian. The Rock, Austin, Cena, Miz, Heenan, Heyman, and Jericho should all learn from Raj how to cut a promo. That was some good shit, Vince Puppet.
Thank you, sir.
Raj, can we negotiate a percentage of the super chats, please?
Yeah. If you want to take a percentage of the profits, sure. Absolutely. Let's do it.
I mean, between the Canadian, between the euro, between the yen that come in,
I'll give you 30 cents if you want to renegotiate.
I mean, come on, like there's 3 of us. Can I get 33% of that?
Random question from Ross McLean, £4.99 Raj, that's like $10 American. Random question, what is your guys' favorite film featuring a wrestler? For me, it's They Live with Piper. P.S. Thunder Lips Mania doesn't count. Ooh. I have to say They Live is pretty badass.
I think it's Andre the Giant and Princess Bride.
Oh, yeah. Actually, let me say this. Andre the Giant's so good in Princess Bride, I don't even think of that as a wrestler in a film. So perhaps you're onto something there.
I think that's universal. We're not counting The Rock because my girls love The Rock and everything. Jumanji,
Moana.
So, yeah,
Fast Five, the best of the Fast.
The Rock is beyond everything. So if we are talking beyond The Rock, is Andre the Giant.
Yeah, no, I think that's solid. Justin,
I have one.
The Condemned.
The
first Marine film.
Zeus.
I don't know. Wrestler in a movie. I don't know.
Zeus was good in Friday.
Oh,
I don't know. I don't really have one that sticks out. I mean, I guess. Yeah, I remember the Hulk Hogan ones. I don't know, but I just.
What was the last Hulk Hogan movie you saw?
The last Hulk Hogan? Was it Mr. Nanny?
No.
What's the last one?
Santa with muscles.
Oh, here's one. I love a very young Big Show in Jingle All the Way. I'm gonna deck your halls, bub. I love that.
He wasn't in Jingle All the Way. You're thinking of
it was Jingle All the Way.
Movie. Billy Madison. No, Waterboy is what it was.
I don't know.
Right.
Don't know. Best wrestlers in films.
No, you froze greatly. I don't know. You froze.
You froze too.
Big Show was in Waterboy. Together. Big Show was in Waterboy.
Oh no! Wait a second. No, Batista in Guardians of the Galaxy. Hands down. Using the Andre rule.
Right.
Like playing a legit
By the way,
role.
Big Show was Captain Insano and Waterboy, but he was a Santa Claus and Jingle All the Way, and he got in a fight with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Torbinell, €2. You're great. Keep it up. Much love from Germany. Thank you,
you,
Torben. Hope all is.
What is a third of that German currency for me? These are hard times. I need to add. This is hard times, Daddy. I need to add up my super chat.
Is it high times? High times, baby.
HJZ $1.99. What do y'all think about the main event? Oh, yeah. Is that on Netflix yet? Because I'm gonna watch the hell out of that.
Oh shit! Well, I thought they were talking about the main event, like Friday night's main event, Hogan versus Andre.
So they're talking about the movie
Twin Towers versus Mega Powers, but apparently no.
I'm gonna watch that. Gemencito Gomez $4.99. Random question: if Ronda Becky happens at Survivor Series, if it would have happened, she would have 100% lost, right? Yeah, I guess Becky would have lost that match.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was one of those karma things. Let me ask you guys this. Did you guys think like John Cena looked like a piece of shit after the Firefly Funhouse? I love that segment, but it didn't make him look bad. Right? Like as a character, as a person, everything. No other legend, Hulk Hogan, The Rock, Stone Cold, they wouldn't have done that where they're talking about being overrated and then being planted at a WrestleMania.
That's why it was so brilliant. That's why it was so good, because I think only John Cena has the humility to do that. I mean, because I think the other guys are too ego-driven and would never have consented.
But it makes him look bad, doesn't it?
But I think you have to respect that he was in on it, though. It's like
because he did that, it adds to the respect.
Yeah, absolutely. It was part of it's kind of like a roast, right? And you know that if somebody does a roast, they have a good sense of humor. But especially if you hear later that like, those meanest roast jokes, the person actually came up with them themselves, gave them like. I think for John, this makes me respect him more that he came back to do that and put Bray over in such a creative way. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
I think it's seen as, I respect him so much more because of that. And his acting is normally hit or miss, but I thought that was a very, very, very effective use of John Cena.
All right.
What else we got, Raj? Anyone else? Any other wrestling journalists you want to take shots at tonight?
We gotta go. My cup's empty, so let me go.
You hear about that Justin LaBar?
Okay, so Monday night, today's Friday. There's no wrestling this weekend. We're going to be back here Monday night.
Thank God.
Me, Matt Morgan, and maybe Babyface Raj, or maybe Heel Raj. Who knows?
Or he could text me and it'll be me Monday night. But hey, you want to do podcast?
I can't watch. Man, I can't watch this empty wrestling. I hate it. I hate wrestling right now. I can't watch it. It's boring as fuck to me.
Do you just want me to put it? Do you just want me to put it? Do you want me to put it on my calendar?
It's unwatchable.
Do you want me to put it on my calendar now that I'm doing Raw's podcast?
Yes, please take over. I can't watch it. It's so unexciting, boring shit.
Raj, I'd be happy to.
Please.
What percentage of the super check can I get?
2? 2 points. 2 points on the.
I'll raise it to 2.
I'm trying to negotiate in front of the public so that way I have you notarized.
Wait, net or gross?
I can't watch this wrestling. I hate it. I hate this wrestling right now. So yes, Justin, please, if you can.
I don't know.
I love it.
We'll see.
I can't watch it.
We'll see how negotiations go over the next 3 days.
It's so boring.
So when's Ryback coming on this podcast?
A week from Monday.
Do we want to tie it into Raw, or do we want to do a separate?
Yeah, it's tied into Raw, but he's available anytime. Available anytime. So,
Raj, say the alphabet backwards. Never mind. I can't either.
On that note,
I can never
sober. I couldn't say it.
Exactly. I can never do it, which I feel is like I'm being set up for a loss. If ever
learn to memorize it.
You can't
just memorize it when you're sober. ZYX.
Well,
why would you
WUTSRQPONMLK.
You
can figure it out.
You don't look sober doing it. I can do right now 100 backwards to 1, That's no problem. But the alphabet is not. I sing the alphabet song with my kids.
You have to think about each one.
You go back. You're like A B C D A B. It's like Z. A B C.
Not meant to be. 100, 99, 98, 97, 96, 95, 94, 93, 92, 91, 90, 89. I can go all the way that way. That's fine.
Okay, folks, I'm going to go watch the main event on Netflix, probably. Maybe I'll have a glass of wine. I feel like I'm missing out.
I know.
I didn't think you drank, Glenn.
Occasionally. There's a reason why. Can
I give you a suggestion?
Yes.
Please sign off this podcast. Go pour yourself a nice stiff glass of wine. Watch a Bailey or Sasha match. Don't take a Blue Chew. Appreciate it the way we do, and move on.
I'm not saying they're not attractive. I'm just saying.
Positive reviews here.
Yes. Look for Justin's roundup for the best butts of female wrestlers coming soon.
I never mentioned her butt once. That is all on you. No. I said her haircut, not her butt.
Yeah, why don't you do the best haircut, the most attractive haircuts of female wrestlers? You can rank them.
All right.
Yes. Oh, Jesus. With the super chats, you guys. Johnny Beswick, $5 Red Face Raj, just do a pause to the blueprint. Make it happen.
That's $1. That's $1.30 for me, Johnny. Thank you very much.
Jimincinto Gomez, $1.99. We need more Raj on the SmackDown podcast. Seriously, Raj, keeping it loose on Friday.
I can't watch these shows. They're so boring to me. I can't do it.
You didn't watch, and you came on, and you added so much to the podcast.
So much.
I can't. I don't like empty arena wrestling. And it's not a WWE thing. I can't watch AEW either right now.
Okay, so on that note, he is at Raj Giri _303. Keep the tweets coming and let him know how much you love tonight. Give it up for Raj Giri, the man who makes this all possible. The man who made a Friday night. You know, in my people's culture, we say, why is this night different than every other night? And tonight, well, because we got heel Raj making an appearance. He is at Justin LaBar. I'm at Glenn Rubenstein, where I'd appreciate a follow. We'll be back here Monday. Me, Matt Morgan, and Justin. Let's just call it out there. It's going to be Justin. I'm going to go figure out how to play the game Spades.